Hey everybody, welcome to the world premiere of the Hipster Camel podcast. And so you'll see our logo here. This is a new collaboration between our Office of Institutional Effectiveness and then the Wiggins Memorial Library Teaching Resource Center. And so you see kind of our logo here. Another word for high impact practices, one acronym, is HIP. And so the Hipster Camel podcast, we're kind of playing on that a little bit. And we're focusing on exemplary Campbell instructors that we have here at Campbell University in Buies Creek, North Carolina. And so I am one of your hosts, Jody Paramore, and my role is in the Institutional Effectiveness Office, and I'm the Director of University Assessment. And then my colleague, Jennifer Seagraves. Jennifer, you want to give your title and introduce real quick?
Hi, my name is Jennifer Seagraves. I am the Instructional Pedagogy and Curriculum Materials Media Specialist Librarian.
One of the main keys of this podcast is to kind of highlight these 11 high impact practices that the literature has kind of designated that these are really high impact for students as far as academic learning and achievement. They're also high impact as far as student engagement, and we know that's important for retention and just having students really enjoy their experience here at Campbell, and kind of they're high impact as far as real world skills and really have that meaning behind an education. And so for me, in assessment, a lot of times when we assess things, we're looking, sometimes we assess and we get our results and it's like, okay, now what? We see something that maybe we don't like, and we want to maybe increase something that's going on within our school or our program or our department. And it's like, what could we try that's really going to make a difference and is proven to make a difference for students? And that's why, we wanted to lean into these 11 high impact practices a little bit more to kind of really show what these are capable of, and also kind of look at faculty within our university that are doing these high impact practices and learn from them as well, and kind of like hopefully maybe encourage others to try these high impact practices. So without further ado, yeah, the name of this episode 1, No Status Quo Writing. And so obviously, this is a writing focused episode here.
Today's guests are Dr. Eric Dunnum, who is an Associate Professor of English, and Dr. Sherry Truffin, and she is also a Professor of English here at Campbell University. So both English faculty and both people who I would call innovators in teaching and learning. Both were recently awarded an Overcoming Status Quo Award that we're going to talk about a little more in depth in a little bit. But before we get into all of that, I'd love to kick it off with a little quick rapid fire round to get to know our guests. So I'm going to give our guests a statement or a question, and I want you to give me your gut reaction or response. We'll go with Sherry first, and then Eric can give his response, but you can. So coffee or tea?
Coffee. Definitely coffee. Yep.
Perfect. Orange or black?
Orange.
Favorite place on campus?
The library.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't have This is supposed to be rapid response, and I'm not doing a good job of that.
Your gut reaction.
Yeah, I like the fountain, maybe the fountain over the one that's actually working at the moment.
Great. So what or who is inspiring you or your teaching this week?
Well, it's toward the end of the semester, so we're all a little tired. Um, uh, yeah, I would say actually Eric. He came up with a lot of the ideas we're working on, and they're working out well. So all semester, I've been working with some of Eric's innovations. So yeah.
So nice of you, Sherry. I don't know what to say. Now I feel like if I tell everyone that you inspire me, that I'll just feel pat and kind of yeah.
Mm.
What has inspired me? I don't know. I was strangely reading while I was fixing my car before coming here, reading Hiking with Nietzsche. I don't know if you know that book, but do you, Sherry?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I've been thinking a bunch about Nietzsche just because I'm reading it, and just the way that he envisions learning as a sort of almost painful experience sometimes. I don't necessarily want that for my students, but also, as you said, this time of the semester, you kind of have to just kind of power through, right? It's not always just sort of fun and games, but there is a kind of beautiful pain to learning that perhaps is inspiring me at this very moment. Not all semester long, but at this very.
Thanks. All right, last question. What's your favorite class this semester to teach?
I'm teaching literary research and criticism, and we're focusing on American Gothic literature, which is my specialization. So I'm enjoying that.
I'm actually teaching 2 preps this year for maybe the first time in a long time. So I only have I have the composition class that we're sort of piloting that we can talk about, and then my trauma and literature class, which I've been teaching for years. And I always do enjoy that one. It's nothing new this semester. It's sort of the same version I've been teaching for a while, but it's always fun and interesting. Now that I'm talking about Nietzsche and trauma, this feels very dark, but it's always, I think, a really good class. The students are always engaged and kind of come up with really interesting readings, and so I set that.
Thank you both. Awesome. And we'd like to get started with you briefly telling us about your background in higher education and what you do here at your current role at Campbell University.
Well, I came here in 2011 after teaching at colleges in Georgia and Illinois and Ohio. And I teach argument of persuasion, which is a course that a lot of the pre-law students take. I teach American literature courses and, of course, a range of writing courses. I also direct the honors program, and I've taught a couple interdisciplinary team talk classes with colleagues. And one of the things I'm most proud of is teaching in the Second Chance Initiative at Sampson Correctional. So that's another thing that's really near and dear to my heart.
Well, welcome.
I've been at Campbell. I think this is my 11th year now here at Campbell. This was my first job out of grad school, so I was just this is the place that I've been. My background and my sort of scholarly background or my specialty is Renaissance drama. So mostly sort of Shakespeare stuff is what I deal with, as well as a little bit of Milton. And so that's my kind of main job, I guess. Right now, I'm the interim director of the QEP, the rewrite program. So that's the writing intensive courses, which we'll talk about. I've also been the workshop director for that same program for the last 4 years now. So I do that, including my general sort of coursework.
So these 11, for our viewers and for y'all, these are the 11 high impact practices that American Association of Colleges and Universities have identified that have enough evidence and really universal support to make these one of the official 11. Number 5 was added actually after these original 10 as the 11th one because e-portfolios, the evidence has gotten so strong on how effective they are for impacting students. And just to be clear, when we look at this definition, this is straight from the AAC&U site in the middle screen here. The 11 teaching and learning practices on this diagram are designated as quote, high impact practices or HIPs based on evidence of significant educational benefits for students who participate in them, including and especially those from demographic groups historically underserved by higher education. The one we are focusing on is down here, number 11. Again, that's just how these are not ranked based on importance. Make sure that's clear, right? These are just 11, a list of 11 in no particular order. This is the order that AAC&U lists them in.
So you've been awarded the Status Quo Award to implement changes into your English 101 syllabus to bring students more of an interdisciplinary focus and experience, and to experience academia from multiple perspectives, and also kind of bringing in this wellness piece, having them look at happiness and sadness and the research behind it, and then having them do their academic synthesis and anyway, can you tell us more about the award and how you guys got to the place of revising that course, please?
Yeah, I think I can speak to that, right, Sherry? And of course, Sherry, jump in at any point. I think, in part, this comes from a long conversation that Sherry and I have had for probably 7-8 years about a kind of frustration with the standard readers that are offered to undergraduate first-year students, right? And so there are these sort of textbooks, there's heaps of them out there that have readers attached to it, just so a set of readings that then everyone can write about. And part of the frustration and the difficulty of those is that they are not academic writing, right? And so, as many of us know, right, academic writing takes a pretty standard form that is very different from popular essays, right? Essays that you're going to find in the New Yorker or the Atlantic or something like that. And the readers are generally populated with those popular essays. And so one of the challenges is the students are asked to write academic writing, but they're not asked to read academic writing. And so we really wanted to give students the opportunity to practice not just writing about academic topics, but reading them. And how can we give them a variety of types of academic writing that they're going to engage in throughout their academic career, and give them a sort of place to practice that and right off the gate, right off the starting gate, rather, like in first year of their coursework. And then we needed a topic, really. And the topic kind of came and this is always the challenge with writing classes, is it's about writing, but they have to write about something, right? You can't just say, go write an essay, or they'll write about, what they did over summer break or something. And no one wants that. So we needed a topic. And I think this really came out of, I was doing some work with the Wellness Ambassador program that we had for a while, and health first, or mental health first aid, and I was working with that and thinking about the kind of struggles that students are going through, the kind of broader mental health crisis that is going on, I think everywhere. We've all kind of noticed that. And so how can we kind of maybe merge those two ideas, have students actually write about emotions, but not necessarily in a way of again, I feel bad or something, right? But in a really academic, rigorous way, right? And so that's sort of where the idea came from. So we then were able to put together a series of readings that are all looking at emotions from multiple different perspectives. And partly this is also coming from a place where, to show students that no one discipline has a monopoly on knowledge, and that there are multiple useful strategies for understanding any given topic, including emotions. And so students have, and we all do, I think, we have a bias that, okay, psychologists understand emotions the best, and they understand mental health the best, and that's the only way of exploring it. And while that's helpful, that's not the only way. And so giving students maybe a historical perspective that's going to say, hey, you are part of a long line of people that are sad. You are part of a long line of people that are happy. And we've been thinking about this for thousands and thousands of years. And this is how you fit into that broader narrative, I think is hugely helpful for everybody, including students. And so I think that's really the impulse behind it. Sherry, does that sound good to you? Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'd just say a little bit about the specifics of the course. Students, one of the elements of high impact practices describing writing intensive courses is they write for different audiences in different genres. So we had them write narratives, a story about an experience that illustrates their ideas about happiness or sadness. So that was more personal essay for peers. We had them write synthesis papers where they're describing their research. We told them the audience is somebody who's not been doing all this reading, who's not been in this class. Could you explain and integrate your research? And then an academic argument as well, along with a number of reflection assignments along the way, the reading reflections, and then the final reflection paper where they show us, here's how my thinking has changed since I wrote my very first narrative. So that's those assignments are Eric's designs, but that gives you a sense of the shape of the semester where they're writing in different genres, writing continuously for different audiences.
What stood out to me when I read over the syllabus here was how many of our students haven't picked a major when they come to college, right? Where you've come to maybe a liberal arts college, you're experiencing, especially in that first semester, a variety of classes. So this one really gives them the chance to kind of pop into different disciplines. Maybe we're looking at a little bit of the science of the brain or a theological perspective on happiness or sadness. So I think that is something unique in your revision that I liked. I had the opportunity to go to Dr. Dunnum's class, and they had finished up the happiness paper, and they had moved on to synthesizing sadness, right? Or the nature of sadness and how it was seen through multiple lenses of those disciplines. So I'm really just kind of curious how that paper went and if it was more interesting for you um, having these revisions and changing the topic for this semester, because you mentioned you've got 3 sections and Sherry, you've got 1. How has it been for you?
Well, I think we've both had a very positive experience. We've talked, informally. We haven't done any, systematic assessment yet, but Eric and I both feel that our students have been very engaged with the assignments. It's a lot of writing. We have assigned a lot of writing, but they have gone, but they have really engaged with it, and so on. I would say, anecdotally, because we haven't done any thorough assessment, and we're going to be getting some feedback from our students specifically. But I think from what I've observed, it's been messy, but I think there's a couple reasons for that. It's the first go round, and anytime you totally redo a course, it's messy in terms of, I hadn't really thought about the sequencing or how this was going to look, or the exact page lengths or word counts that would be appropriate for different assignments. But I think we agree that we have very much challenged our students, but I don't think we've overwhelmed our students. So I think we've done something that's developmentally appropriate, but challenging. So I think we've balanced that pretty well. Students, there's definitely things, we're going to change. But I've gotten really mostly positive feedback. Like I took one day and I just told the students to write some reflections on the Campbell University hallmarks, the hallmarks of a Campbell education, which are character, initiative, and calling. And some of my students wrote some interesting things. One of them wrote, I never thought of the many different ways one could look at an issue or situation. I'm also learning to dig deeper or critically think because the in-depth assignments make you use every ounce of your knowledge. And another student wrote, if you read about emotions a lot, you will start to connect it with your own life. For example, the happy narrative talks about what makes you happy. Later, as we did more readings, we read about the many different things that make other people happy. So there was a bit of, Campbell defines character in the hallmarks as also having to do with compassion. And so some of the students were thinking about recognizing other people's struggles, whether it was reading disability studies or reading about the challenges for African American women to seek mental health care when there's kind of a cultural imperative to show strength and serve others. And so I really have seen some good engagement. You mentioned they didn't choose a major. I also had some students write about the idea of calling. And, I have one English major in the class, and she's like, this is really affirming. Like, I'm loving writing. I'm loving research. This is affirming that I'm in the right major. Another student wrote, this class is affirming that I should never be an English major because the writing and research are really hard. And so I've gotten some of those kinds of reflections as well. Eric, you're also finding real positive experiences?
Yeah, and I think I definitely want to echo what you said there about it being appropriate for their developmental stage, right? And that was a big worry I had going in. Is this going to be too hard? Is it going to be too easy? I just wasn't sure, and I think it's not perfect. There's some tweaks that we have to do, but they're definitely able to do the work. And I think if anything, we want to sort of maybe just push them a little bit harder next semester, challenging them to do a little bit more difficult writing, maybe. But I think the kind of intellectual work that we want them to do, they're doing, which is great. I couldn't be more pleased with that aspect of it.
I love how much reflection and intention you both put into creating your courses and assessing them throughout the semester and spending time and going back and reviewing them. I just appreciate it. When I read the syllabus for the English 101, you had mentioned, in short, you wanted students to become more compassionate and empathetic human beings. And Sherry, you brought up calling here and character a little bit, and how you have all both incorporated this into the writing of this syllabus, but in the course, and asked students to reflect on it even, and read some of those responses there. Can you speak to other faculty members about the process of implementing the hallmarks into their syllabus? Do you have any advice for them about doing that?
Definitely do. I think that in Blackboard, there's a journal function that's super flexible, super easy to use. It allows students, like if you set up any kind of journal, it can be graded or ungraded, and students can type directly into a text box, or they can create a document and upload it to the journal, or they can upload a picture. And the reason I say that is because in all my classes now, I'm just creating a kind of catch-all journal so that I can easily do reflection assignments or prompts on the fly. And if students have their computers and they want to type directly into Blackboard, if they don't have their computers, they can write by hand and take a picture and put it in Blackboard, or, it's just real flexible. And so I found even just the mechanics of it, like if I don't have to plan it all ahead, like plan in exactly what a reflection paper is going to be, although our course does have a final reflection paper. But if I want to do little reflections along the way, I can, so it's just a real easy way to do that without it doesn't have to be for a grade, but you can be for a grade. So I'm really loving the journal function in Blackboard Ultra, because I find that, I'm very much a planner, but I'm finding myself building more frequent reflections because there's just a really easy way to do it. Just kind of say, okay, in the last 10 minutes of class, I put up on the screen in a PowerPoint, like, here's a reflection question I want you to think about. Campbell defines initiative this way as part of the hallmarks. What have we done that has built this, has helped you to develop initiative? What's one thing we could do? What's one thing that could be added to this class that would also do it? And so it allows me to get feedback from them and to ask them to reflect in just a real easy way where I don't have to, it's not complicated to decide right before class, I'm going to take 10, 15 minutes and just do some reflection, because there's just an easy place to put it. So that's like a practical thing that I have found helpful.
thank you guys for being with us today on our episode of the History of Campbell podcast. And I'm going to I have candles for you all, and my wife makes candles, 100% natural soy wax, all the good stuff, right? Autumn breeze is what you'll be getting. But anyway, so again, this is kind of symbolic of the light you guys have been with writing intensive courses and just kind of helping to promote writing at Campbell. And so just thank you for keeping that light burning and keep it going. And so until next time, remember the exemplary learning experiences that we seek for our students can only be found when we have exemplary instructors. Be a hipster, Campbell. God bless. See you later.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.